Welcome to Rainy Day Rabbit Holes,
a uniquely Pacific Northwest podcast.
I'm Shea.
And I'm Jody.
Let's fall down the rabbit hole. Today, Shea's going to ruin Thanksgiving for you.
Oh, Shea. What is it? What's the Grinch of Thanksgiving? Is that you?
That'd be me.
It's the Shea.
It's the Shea of Thanksgiving. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Thanksgiving week. And we're just going to give you a little mini-sode today. We need a little bit of a break. And so you're just going to get a little episode. And then next week, we will give you your full-blown hour-long episode again.
Yay. I love Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite holidays. I think it's because it kicks off holiday season, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's our first good meal. We spend hours together as a family.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice. We need more excuses to get together and have, a nice meal with family.
Yeah, I think I prefer it more because there's less pressure too. No presents, things like that. The decorations are toned down a little bit.
It's a little more simple.
A little more simple. It's all just about getting together as family and eating.
Yeah.
But I imagine that's not how it got started, huh, Shea?
Nope, and that's how I'm going to ruin Thanksgiving for you. So what do you remember being taught about Thanksgiving in school? Like the first Thanksgiving?
In school, the first Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly, was the Pilgrims and the Indians got together. This was a time where they could basically become one community. They fed each other for days on end with all the foods that they traditionally made, and they'd share it with each other.
Okay.
It was a bonding experience,
right?
So that is my learning.
That is the kind of trope that we're taught in history school, that the Pilgrims and Native people came together in a celebration of Thanksgiving, and it was all hunky-dory, and they were big friends.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was taught. And do you know where this all began?
Well, this story in particular was in where is now Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
So let's start first with the Pilgrims themselves. So the Pilgrims were not called the Pilgrims until much later. They called themselves separatists.
Oh, they were separating from wherever they came from, whatever country they were coming from.
Right. So they had settled at a point in Holland, and they had religious freedom in Holland. So they did not come here seeking religious freedom. They came here mostly because they wanted to make money, and they wanted to establish a religious theocracy. Mm. So it wasn't for religious freedom. They were not being persecuted because of their religion. They wanted one religion to rule them all.
So this was actually quite the opposite mission for them.
Right. So the Mayflower did bring the Pilgrims to North America from Plymouth, England in 1620 to Plymouth, New England.
Plymouth Rock.
They left from Plymouth and they landed in Plymouth. How convenient.
They didn't call it New Plymouth?
No, they just called everything New Plymouth. New England, hello. So
New
Massachusetts. York. So in 1621 is the first recorded incident of them celebrating a successful harvest with a 3-day gathering. And it was attended by members of and I might butcher this, the Wampanoag tribe. So this event is where our idea of Thanksgiving came from. But it wasn't until in the 1830s when New Englanders started calling it the first Thanksgiving. And in 1863, the Thanksgiving holiday was beginning to be officially observed. It wasn't an official holiday by Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, wow.
And that was more of a day of thanks for victories in the Civil War, specifically like Gettysburg and Vicksburg. But
that's where the name Thanksgiving comes from.
That's where we started kind of officially observing it as a nation, but it was more about these victories in the Civil War.
Wow.
And it was suggested that it be celebrated on the last Thursday of November, but it wasn't an official holiday yet. Now, just a year earlier, there was a mass execution of Dakota tribal members by the government. So corrupt federal agents kept the Dakota Sioux from receiving food and provisions, and so members of the tribe on the brink of starvation fought back, and that sparked the Dakota War of 1862. President Lincoln ordered the execution of 38 Dakota men to die from hanging, and then the Thanksgiving holiday was kind of a propaganda, diplomatic, let's try to smooth over these bad feelings that the native tribes have for us. So it wasn't actually made an official holiday until Ulysses S. Grant did the Holiday Act, which included Christmas and Easter and 4th of July. And then later on in the 1930s, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt made it the fourth Thursday of the month, and that was literally to kick off the holiday shopping season.
Oh, yes, like all of our holidays. It's very money is the driver.
Exactly. So that's kind of in a nutshell, the origins of when we celebrate Thanksgiving. But there's a opposing viewpoint that the first Thanksgiving stemmed from the massacre of I want to say it's pronounced Pequot people in 1637, a culmination of the Pequot War. While it is true that the day of Thanksgiving was noted in Massachusetts Bay and the Plymouth colonies afterwards, it's not really accurate to say it's the basis for our holiday now. Days of Thanksgiving had been noted in Florida, in other parts of the nation, but it was a tradition that was hundreds of years old, not only for Europeans, where they would have a day of Thanksgiving for a special event, like a successful harvest or winning a war. And it would be, any time during the years where that day of giving thanks.
It's not a set day.
Right. And a lot of time it was either a leader, like a king, who would say this is going to be a day of Thanksgiving for victory in X battle, or clergy would come forth and say, we're going to have a day of Thanksgiving, and it would be a celebration. So the colonists that came to the United States would celebrate the harvest yearly if they had a good harvest. So that's kind of where this stemmed from. It was, they were just enjoying the bounties of their harvest. So, by the way, turkey was probably not served.
That's what I was wondering. Time. How much has that changed what we're eating? Because it sounds like it could have been any time of the year, and for something very specific, where this Thanksgiving that we see now, last Thursday of the month, is very specific, and we're taught one reason behind it. But it sounds like it went through the tumbler. It went through.
Exactly.
It started with one thing, and as time went on, it turned into other things. We came up with a fantastic story to sell it. And all of a sudden, all these areas who were celebrating in different ways with different foods and different reasons, now we all, as a country, celebrated it on the same day in almost the same way.
We have these traditions that have just kind of been baked over the years. So
baked turkey.
Exactly. Yeah, there would have not been pies. They didn't have wheat for pies or sugar. It would have been probably venison, because there is a note that venison was served at that meal, but there's not very much note about. They may have had some other wild fowl like duck or geese. Turkey wasn't really a super popular meat at that time. Of course, they'd eat it if they could get it.
So do you think they ever did turducken back then?
I'm sure they probably didn't do turducken.
No turducken.
And there probably would have been like some cornbread and some succotash and maybe like cranberries, whatever they were. Was the bounties of the harvest.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's probably a lot of squash, that type of...
I'm sure, yeah. I'm sure there was a lot of squash. Now, the Native Americans that were attending this feast, this was not a friendship relationship. The Pilgrims had been helped out significantly by the Wampanoag tribe, but it was more of a diplomatic and political relationship. That tribe had been almost decimated by colonists that they had been dealing with Europeans visiting this area for over 100 years. And so they had dealt with them in the form of explorers, traders, and slavers. So European slavers would come here and they would kidnap native tribes people and take them back to Europe as slaves, which that is actually where the thing we are not taught about. Do you remember the native person that features heavily in the story, Squanto as they call him? That was the one who was like helping out the Pilgrims and trying to teach them how to do things. One of the things he was trying to teach them to do, by the way, is bathe, because at that time there was still that thought that a good stink on you is what kept the disease away.
From the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims felt that way.
Yes, the Europeans, they would rarely bathe. They thought that it kept disease away to keep a good stink on you.
So
and the natives were like, you guys fucking stink. Please take a bath.
These savages had to teach them how to bathe.
Savages, exactly. So that native person, Squanto, his name is actually Tisquantum. That's not that hard. I think, does this start the trend of Americans nicknaming people that they can't pronounce their name?
Yeah.
Tisquantum's not that hard. So his role is really complicated. What we weren't told is that he was captured by English slavers in 1614, sold into slavery in Europe. He escaped slavery with the help of the church, and he was in England at that point because he had been sold into slavery in Spain. And so he escaped to England. He learned English there. And then he came back to to North America to find that his tribe was gone. They had been wiped out by smallpox, which had been transferred to them by the Europeans. So his tribe is gone, but he helps them out in a diplomatic way because
The Pilgrims, he helps.
yes, he helps the separatists out. There was still some Wampanoag, I'm still struggling with that name, Wampanoag tribes left, and the leader saw the English as an opportunity to fend off feudal tribes. But at this point, too, daily and seasonal rituals of Thanksgiving had been practiced by this tribe for thousands of years for different reasons. So it's not like this is some new concept of having a meal to celebrate thanks. So what is left out of our traditional quote unquote Thanksgiving story is that the colonists who came here were responsible for wiping out tribes of Native Americans. And a lot of these tribes remember the entry of pilgrims into their lands as a day of mourning, with mourning, not celebration.
Right.
A good 75% of the Wampanoag tribe was wiped out by European colonists, either by disease or war. And the relationship that they built with those pilgrims deteriorated until it culminated in the King Philip's War, and hundreds, if not thousands, of Native Americans were killed during this war and then publicly executed or enslaved. So, and then all of their lands were seized by the colonists.
And this is before they started sharing a Thanksgiving?
No, this was after.
After.
Yeah,
Right.
so that relationship that they built with the Wampanoag tribe,
So it's
sitting
just
down and
destroyed.
celebrating this meal, this was them trying to, they wanted the English also to help protect them from they were having feuds with other tribes, but also, like, let's make good with these guys so they don't continue to try to murder us and enslave us.
Right, right.
And then it just deteriorated, and then we started that tradition of, moving natives out of their land and taking them over. So fun time.
Taking over the land.
So did I ruin Thanksgiving for you? So just keep that in mind when you're celebrating with your family. That story that we're told is not all true. There's a lot of darkness. The people who came here were not good to the people who already lived here. And so maybe have a moment of remembrance for the Native people who lost their lives, and maybe get some books about Native history to read to your children.
I really got into Native history while I was in nursing school. We had culturally congruent healthcare.
That is hard to say.
It is.
Culturally, oh gosh.
Congruent. So
culturally congruent healthcare. Okay.
As a nurse, of course, you got to learn how to take care of all types of people, all cultures, and be sensitive, right? So we all chose cultures to research, and then we share that information so we could, see the do's and the don't. And I chose Native American culture, and I really appreciated a lot of it, especially how they were before the European settlers came, and the amount of disease was almost non-existent. And in fact, to this day in Alaska, there are very remote Eskimo tribes, and they don't have cancer, and they don't have diabetes, and they don't have those things because they live in a way that is natural to their bodies, right? That's a theory anyway. So that just fascinated me. And also all the different types of tribes. You have your nomads, and you have tribes that, have the long houses, and you have the ones that don't. So, I mean, they all are just like us, very different in their communities.
Exactly.
But yet carry a lot of the same traditions as well. So, and I was always told that I had Native American blood, or I wasn't part Native American. But when I did my ancestry DNA, it came back with none.
Yep.
In fact, I'm pretty much British, 85%, which I'm
nice
like,
going.
what?
You're a colonist.
I'm like almost purebred. Like,
oh no,
I come with papers, extra dollars, really high maintenance.
Yeah, and now you can't murder anybody because you have your DNA.
Yes,
on
yes,
file.
I've submitted, and that's a warning to all family members related to me.
Don't murder anybody.
Do not-
Jody's family.
Do not even try to be a serial killer, because I have documented your existence.
Exactly. So I have some good memories of Thanksgivings. My biggest positive memory that I have as a kid was having Thanksgiving at my grandma's house. This one year, my aunt was there, my cousins were there, and my family was there. And we decided to go, I guess my aunt decided to go gourmet, and we had a goose.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember it being so delicious. My dad made roasted chestnut soup.
Whoa.
And they had
got
chestnuts.
all gourmet.
Oh my God, really gourmet. They put chestnuts in the stuffing. It was like sage and chestnut stuffing. And this goose was, I love the dark meat of the turkey. And so a goose is like all dark meat.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
But if I remember correctly, you got to be good at cooking it. It will dry out really fast. So good,
Yeah.
good for...
Oh, my aunt is an amazing
Yeah.
cook. She makes the best pies too. Her pie crusts are I don't normally like pie crust, but her pie crust is this flaky, buttery, amazing, like, yeah, Aunt Shirlene's pie crust is amazing. Her pies are so good.
Sounds like she was a homemaker.
Well, she ran a bed and breakfast.
Oh,
and
there you
so
go.
she would make pies almost every day for her guests. And she would make these amazing breakfasts for them. And I would often get to go sit in on breakfast with the guests. And she would make Dutch pancakes. They're so good. Yeah, so that was my big thing. Oh, and Grandma always made this concoction called Texas salad. And we all hated it. Grandma, bless your heart. I know you're rolling over in your grave hearing me talk about how much we hated
your signature dish.
It was like corn and lima beans and black-eyed peas and celery in a Miracle Whip-based dressing and black olives, and like it was terrible. But everybody, of course, would be like, "Oh, we love your Texas salad, Grandma," and take a spoonful and push it around your plate until it was like separated and it looked like you ate it.
Oh, gross.
And then I think my worst Thanksgiving, well, I have a couple. One was one of the first times as an adult I tried to cook a turkey and I didn't realize that there was a bag of stuff you had to take out of the carcass. And because it's not in the middle hole of the carcass, it's behind and there's a flap.
Yeah, yeah.
No idea. So I cooked it with that bag in and it ruined the whole turkey because it's plastic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
And so that was bad. So I think the next year I decided to have, you can go to like a grocery store and have them cater your food basically, and you just go pick it up. I was like, we're doing that. And then when we first moved to Seattle from California, my husband and I, we were living in this house in Capitol Hill, and we'd only been in that house for a couple of weeks. And I don't think we had really used the oven much at this point. And so we have his friend Bruce over for Thanksgiving because Bruce didn't have any family here and we were orphans up here as well. So we put the turkey in, expecting it to take, 4 hours or whatever it takes. And at, I want to say 6 o'clock, we check it. It's still practically raw.
Oh, no.
We check it again an hour later. It's still practically raw. The oven's temperature thermostat was not working.
Oh, no.
And
so it's like at 200 instead of 300.
And so I think we didn't end up, the turkey wasn't done until about midnight.
Oh, no.
And I was so mad. And it was, of course, terrible because it'd been in there doing weird things all day long. So that was kind of our worsts. But I hear you have some pretty good Thanksgiving stories.
Oh, I do. Well, Keith and I have been married for 33 years. And even though we got married when I was still in high school, as soon as we had our own place, as tiny as it was, no dishwasher, I started hosting all these family events. I don't know why. I just really wanted to take on that role. So, I have plenty of good stories. I have stories where my first one, his grandparents said, we'll buy the turkey. That's the part we want to give for the meal. We'll buy the actual turkey. So come pick it up on Wednesday and have dinner with us. And then you'll leave with your turkey and ready to go. Excellent. So we go over there. We have dinner. It's a lovely time. We're getting ready to say goodbye. It's probably 8 p.m. on Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. And they go to give me the turkey and they go to the freezer.
Oh, no. Something that it takes 3 days to thaw.
Yeah. So no, like literally I warm water bath that thing all night long.
Oh,
I went without sleep.
Oh, no.
And thought, I was so stunned. I didn't even know what to say. Like they had to know better.
Yeah, you're like, even I know you can't do that.
Anyway, set up for, look what Jody did, right? And I've cooked my turkey upside down, which turns out to be a fantastic way to cook your turkey.
Because
breast
then all
down.
the fat goes into the breast, which gets dried out.
Very juicy breast. Everybody laughed when it came out of the oven, but nobody laughed when they ate it.
Exactly.
I used to, when we were in the military, like when we lived in Hawaii, we're away from our family, and so were many other people. So I always cook these big things, any holiday dinner I was really doing, but big Thanksgiving dinner, and I was making homemade pumpkin pies. Got them on my 2 on a cookie sheet, which slide them into the oven, and lost control of that pan, and liquid pumpkin pie just dumped all over the inside of the hot oven.
Oh no!
Yeah, that
where
was
it
fun.
immediately cooked, and then you had to wait for it to cool down to clean
Yes.
it up. Oh,
yes.
what a
It
shit
was-
show that
and
was!
it was everywhere.
Oh my god!
Everywhere. So
Did
I
you
was-
cry? I would have cried.
More like just swore a lot.
Yeah,
I don't.
I would have cried.
Crying in that case for me would be like I would just get more mad because I'd be wasting my time. So swearing while I clean it is
Yes.
just more productive. Throwing things, that's way more productive.
So, speaking of how you cook your turkey, I learned several years ago the best way to cook a turkey so that it doesn't dry out. First, you spatchcock it.
Yes.
Which, if for people out there that don't know, spatchcocking means you cut the spine out of it and then you flatten it out. So it cooks evenly because you know how you cook a turkey all wrapped up like that, the breast gets dried out while you're still trying to get the legs to cook. That's another good reason to cook it upside down if you're going to cook it whole, because that way the breast is going to not get dried out while the dark meat is cooking. But then you brine it, and we'll brine it for 3-4 days. So you salt water bath with, I like to do like sage and rosemary and dried cranberries and a little bit of sugar and some garlic in there. And then you will never have a dry turkey again if you brine that baby and spatchcook it. And now we smoke them usually for several hours and then finish it off in the oven. And it just turns out so good.
I have refused to do anything different for my Thanksgiving turkey than I've always done.
Yeah.
It's the once a year you get that meal, and I just want to keep it the same.
Well, if you've nailed it.
No, I do. Like on actual Thanksgiving this year, I will have a smoked turkey, even though we've already celebrated our family Thanksgiving. We did it a week early, and I did the regular roasting of it. However, this year when I went to look at the little package, it tells you how long, just trying to get an idea when I need to throw this turkey in. And there's only unstuffed directions. I'm like, what's that about? I always stuff my bird. That's the best stuffing there is, something that's been inside the bird.
Sure.
And then I thought, well, I'll just go online and look it up. And, oh, yeah, that's not good for you. That's where the salmonella comes from. That makes it hard to. So
Because
this year,
uncooked juices might go in the middle and
Yep.
not get fully cooked.
not get fully cooked. And
Right.
This is, and it also makes it more difficult to cook evenly. So this year, I did not put the stuffing in. That was my one change. And it's still this. I just don't like the stuffing as much when it's in a pan, but
Yeah.
it was all right. I
Yeah.
added extra moisture to it, so
There
it
you
wouldn't
go.
be so dry.
We're not really a stuffing family.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I like stuffing. I'll eat it if it's there. I'm not going to go out on my way to make it. And Rich hates it because soggy bread. He can't stand soggy bread.
Yeah, I forget that's what it is by the time I eat
Yeah,
it.
exactly. But spatchcocking also, did this turn into a culinary podcast? This is not a culinary podcast.
Finally, we get to go sweaty balls. Oh, I just love those sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls.
Sweaty balls. Because as soon as we turned on these mics, I was like, for the very first time when we started testing them, all I could say was sweaty balls. And anybody who's watched Saturday Night Live knows what I'm talking about.
With spatchcocking, the turkey makes it cook a lot quicker too. So you can cut a couple hours off of your
Yes.
cooking time. So spatchcock your turkey. Try it out. It's hard to do. You have to get poultry shears. You cannot try it with just regular kitchen shears. It will not. They will break them. So poultry shears are super tough, and it's got a curved blade, and it is hard to cut through that spine. And it's going to make a mess all over everything because it's sliding around while you're trying to do it.
Don't cut
But
your fingers
it's
off.
totally worth it. And then you have to flip it over and then spread out the wings and then press down on it until you're cracking the bones. It's kind of, but it makes it so much easier. And then you can fit it into a bucket to brine it easier too, because you can kind of like roll it up. So that's the way to do it. Oh, also after you brine it, you take it out of the brine. You might even want to rinse the brine off so it's not too salty. And then you pat it dry. You spread it out on a wire rack that's on a sheet pan, and you put it back in the fridge for a couple of hours to dry out. So that's how you get the smoke to stick to it if you're going to smoke it.
Even though I have never changed the way I'm cooking my turkey, I will say that is the best way I've ever had it.
It turns out
it was
great anytime.
by far the best
Yeah.
turkey I've
And then
ever had.
smoking it, just, I love it.
Yeah, it was actually spatchcock smoked turkey.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice.
Very, very good.
We're letting Mom do Thanksgiving this year, and she likes to just put it in one of those bags, which
Yeah.
I still don't trust them that they're not getting toxins into your turkey.
That is a family joke for us because, like I said, Keith's grandparents always wanted to. They got the turkey, and every year they'd be like, "Are you going to put it in a bag? Did you put your turkey in a bag?" I've never used a bag, and I'm not going to use it.
The one time I used a bag, it burnt to the top of the turkey.
I did use a bag once, and it exploded, and then the turkey grease caught on fire in my oven.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's awful. So weren't you saying you started to
Oh,
tell
I
me a
have.
story? I stopped you about your fun aunt.
Yeah, well, okay. So growing up, we come from Montana. Both my parents. We have very little family here in the Pacific Northwest, or at least in Washington. When we moved over here when I was 2, my parents made friends with this other couple and their families, and we started doing holidays. I mean, we eventually started calling each other family and spending holidays together. So this is my earliest memories of Thanksgiving, is getting together with them. It would either be at their house or ours. I think we took turns. I'm not sure. But I just have all these great memories of the house smelling up with food, and it was my favorite food. And I couldn't wait. And you know, you have it's warm because you've been baking all day and you've got all your favorite people around. But one year we went to, it was not at our house. We were not hosting. We were actually going to, it was the paternal grandmother. We went to her house, and she was going to cook the Thanksgiving dinner. And this is when I have several holiday stories with her where as a child, I don't remember being scared, but maybe I should have been. Anyway, we get to her apartment in West Seattle, and, you know, I'm looking forward to the food. It's my favorite. And we get there, and already I can tell. Well, first of all, she opens the door, and she's in her quote-unquote bikini, which is actually her bra. Oh,
God.
And
was she wearing pants or like just her underwear?
Yeah, she was wearing pants and a bikini top, which was actually her bra. And she told us, welcome to the cruise ship. We're having Thanksgiving dinner on a cruise ship. She had candles everywhere. The turkey had not even, I mean, there was a reason we didn't smell turkey dinner because it had not been started.
Oh, no.
So she walked around like this all day. And then, so I was, you know, a reader. So I had a book with me that I was going to read. I'm all of 12, nerd. And
that's you and me both, babe. I always had a book with me. Yeah.
She kept taking the book out of my hand and using it as a coaster. She would take it out of my hand while I'm reading it, put it on a table, and put a drink on it. Didn't have to be hers, just any drink laying around.
Must like, have. Why?
I know. I just remember the adults, all 4 adults, trying to figure out how we're going to have a Thanksgiving dinner because it's dinner time and there's no turkey.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I do remember we sat down and had dinner. I'm not sure how they wrangled that, to be honest, but they did. A couple years later, fast forward, it's Wednesday night, and my parents are hosting. I'm probably about 14 at this time, and it's Wednesday night. Before Thanksgiving, my parents are out getting groceries for the last bet. Phone rings. I answer it. It's this woman, Grandma, with schizophrenia, I believe. That's my diagnosis. I was a kid.
As a medical doctor, as a psychiatrist at 14.
Yeah, now I'm 14. Yeah. And she calls up and she asks for, I'm going to make up pseudonyms. So she asked for Bob. Her son is Bob. Hey, is Bob there? No, Bob's not coming till tomorrow. No, it's Thanksgiving and he's there. No, he's not here. They're not here. Well, I'm lost. I'm on my way to the house, your house, and I can't find it. And I need someone to get me some directions. So I need to talk to him. I said, well, he's not here. And it's actually Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. No, it's not. And she's arguing with me, hanging up the phone. At one point, she tells me, oh, yeah, now I remember. And I'm like home alone with my little sister who's like probably 2.
Mm-hmm. Jeez.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this crazy lady's showing up at my house. And there's no cell phones. My parents were at the store. What am I supposed to do? Call Safeway and have them paged overhead?
Right.
I finally call Bob and his family and get a hold of them. And they were home. They lived in 20 minutes from my house, but they somehow found her, wrangled her back in, and got her home. But yeah, a couple of crazy stories there.
Well, I hope that you have a good Thanksgiving holiday, your second and third Thanksgiving.
Yes,
this week
I get to have 3.
Yeah, lucky you. So
I told you it's my favorite.
I do love the food as well. It's really nice. And my mom's a good cook, so it'll be fun. And it's just going to be my mom, her husband, my dad, me, and my husband. So it'll be nice and quiet. Rich will put football on, and you know, my dad and my stepdad will talk about politics probably, which my mom and I will go off in the kitchen and ignore.
Will they agree on politics?
Oh yes, they agree on politics. They're 2 peas in a pod. Well, happy Thanksgiving, Jody.
You too. Happy Turkey Day.
Happy Turkey Day. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our listeners out there, which I think at this point is mostly just our friends and family.
Yes.
Is there anybody you want to give a special Thanksgiving shout out to?
Oh, gosh. No.
No? Okay. Well, I'm going to give a special Thanksgiving shout out to my sweet friend who is also named Shea. I'm Shea the elder. She's Shea the younger, whose 30th birthday party I was at last night. Will be turning 30 on Thursday on Thanksgiving. So I don't know if she'll be listening to this podcast on her way to her family's house. But happy birthday, Shea. I love you so much. And it was a great time last night. So that's my Thanksgiving shout out.
Nice.
And everybody, please go on to Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a 5-star review. I think once we start getting reviews, we will maybe pick a review every week to read out loud on the podcast. So maybe we'll start that next year.
And feel free to reach out to us with any feedback. Again, we are building this plane and flying it at the same time. So we can't improve if we don't know what we need to improve on.
Exactly. We would love your feedback, and positive and negative. Just, you don't have to be rude.
Okay. In a class I teach, it's 5-to-1 feedback, meaning 5 positive to 1 negative. So you have to give us 5 compliments.
Yes. Pander to us 5 times and then give us constructive criticism.
It's not weird to show up and go, I like these 5 things about you. And then this one.
Yes.
This one, though.
And I am going to tell anybody out there who is going to complain about the name of our podcast, we can't change it now.
Wait, did somebody complain about that?
Somebody was like, I don't see how it makes sense of what it has to do with the Pacific Northwest. Oh, okay, whatever. It's fine. We can't change it now. It's on everything.
Nor do I want to.
I know. Also, check out our new logo. I did put out a social media request for people to vote, and they voted on one. And then I tried it, and it looked terrible in the podcast on your phone. So we went a totally different direction, and I think I like it because it's more simple. So
I love it.
Check it out. It's
mysterious.
It's mysterious.
It's beautiful. It's eye-catching. Great job, Shea.
Thank you.
Great job.
You. Yeah, I was happy with that one. I was like, yep, let's do it. And please subscribe to our podcast through Spotify or whatever. I've started putting them up on YouTube as well, if that's how you like to listen to your podcast. I'm just going to put pictures along with it, so it's not going to be videos. And you can have the podcast as soon as it comes out. So, and please tell friends and family members to listen. We need to increase our listenership. We're going to try to start accepting sponsors next year, and we need lots of downloads and listens for sponsors to come and want to be on our show, because it's not free for us to do this stuff. We'll also start a Patreon next year, and hopefully we'll have some good bonus episodes for you if you will subscribe to our Patreon next year.
Yes, we in nursing, there's this thing called novice to expert, and we are emerging out of our novice phase into beginner. So
yes,
eventually we're going to be experts, and we're hoping to kick that into gear in 2024.
Yep. But for that, we need to grow our listenership. So please spread the word. And I hope you guys enjoyed our Thanksgiving mini-sode.
I did, because I love Thanksgiving.
All right. Let's go eat some turkey.
Yay. I have some. I have it.
Ooh. All right. Well, bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
It's like, what? Why are you eating?
I was like, am I supposed to say, let's go down the rabbit hole?
All right. Let's do it now.
See you down the rabbit hole.
Testicles. Thanksgiving testicles.
Ooh, testicles. That's pretty good stuff, actually.
Testicles are pretty good stuff?
Yes, testicles and slightly sparkly wine.